got mail. Good morning, everybody. You're tuned to Computer Studio now on the Nissan Communications Network. I'm Amnon, your host for the next couple of hours. Next hour, sorry. Along with Spence.
Good morning.
Good morning. And Nick is here with us.
The stopwatch for 1 hour is running. So good
Okay.
morning.
Hard stop.
Hard stop.
Our number is 919-518-9773, Computer Studio Voice on Skype. And today's show is made possible by vMix Software and is sponsored by Tom Sinclair of Live Streaming Gear. Another day.
Well, that's good.
Yep, absolutely, it's good. So, what happened last week that you guys that sticks out? Got to talk about it.
It's not tech related, but
Well-
Jesus, the pictures out of the mountains are freaking
That's
brutal.
Unbelievable.
I have not seen any, but I know that
Oh my God.
I've been trying to call Marshall, and he's not answering his phone.
It probably doesn't have. They don't have cell service. Like I-40 is gone for miles in
Yeah,
certain
There are
areas. Whole towns are gone.
Landslides
Yeah.
took it out. You look at the pictures of downtown Asheville and cars on the water, water flowing. They got 30 inches of rain in a
Yeah.
couple hours.
Remarkable.
And the powers, I know several people that live in this one area near West Jefferson. That's just outside of Boone. And they live on a small river, and it does occasionally flood. But the bridge going over to where all the properties are from the roadside to get to the community is a private bridge. It's gone. It's gone. I mean, and to build it again is like $1 million. And the community is like, we don't have the money.
Oh, they'll
There is
build it again.
There's an emergency way out through somebody's property, but it's not a road. But the point is that it was 100. They said it may be even a 500-year flood. Usually they have a 100-year flood occurs every 100 years. This is a 500-year flood. It has happened before, but the infrastructure wasn't there during the past floods.
Yeah, and I was reading some stuff from obviously the cell service out there is gone. And I was reading something. It was, I don't know if it was an official quote from Duke Energy or if this was, I don't think it was. I think it was from a town city manager or something like that. They were saying that in some areas, not only is obviously the power lines are gone, but they said the entire electrical infrastructure in some regions is just wiped out. Underground lines, substations, it's just gone. So it's pretty wild.
In one
I
way,
mean, there's still 554,000 people in the state without power as of
in one way,
7 minutes ago.
when something like this happened and the electric grid, which is old anyway, is gone, it's a good thing because it all depends how long it's going to take.
That's true.
But
That's a good point.
The new one will be much better.
One of the dangers that people were pointing out about the vulnerability of the U.S. grid is that replacement parts, there aren't enough of them to replace what we have now. Transformers and all that could take months to source.
But it's not like you have to build everything at once. I mean, you take it piece by piece.
If you have a supply chain issue now,
Yeah.
you've got what's going on in Florida too. The Gulf Coast got wiped out. I mean, they said there's this one tourist island. It's gone. There's nothing left. Everything is destroyed.
The worst part about what's happened in the mountains, obviously minus the loss of life and all that stuff, that obviously that's the worst thing. But this is their busy, starting now is their busy season. with tourism and everything like that, and obviously many of these
Yeah.
places, it's going to take months. I mean, there's one town. I don't know if you've seen these pictures of damn it, Chimney Rock. Have you seen those pictures, Spence?
I think so. Yeah. I don't know. I saw pictures. I think it was Chimney Rock.
There's a town,
Yeah.
Chimney Rock. Um, it's non-existent. Like
Yeah.
there was a town there. There was a downtown with some businesses and some shops, and it's it's no more. This is the here. I got the picture here. Let me see if it'll let me show you.
That's along the Blue
This
Ridge
is
Parkway,
on
right?
the left is the Google Maps of Chimney Rock, NC 9 something whatever, and on the right is the picture after the flood. I mean, it's completely gone. There's nothing. There's literally nothing left. It's insane.
Wow.
Oh,
Absolute
I'm
insanity.
looking at pictures of it now.
Yeah, it's freaking nuts.
Lake Lure, Chimney Rock, Lake Lure.
Yeah, gone.
Completely destroyed.
Mm.
Pretty brutal. Now, to the infrastructure standpoint, you know, obviously fiber internet and backhaul internet, all that stuff is fine and dandy. Um, but you know, something like this is where something like Starlink shines. Cell phones are great. Obviously, cell service in the mountains already sucked anyway because it's not practical to have widespread cell phone service in areas where you've got so many peaks and valleys. I mean, that's not anybody. You talk to anybody that lives out there, they'll talk about how awful the cell service is. So
Mhm.
that's not whatever. But at least it's there in some parts. Um, this is where something like Starlink really shines, and
If
I
you
would
have power,
imagine.
though.
Yeah, but even if you don't have power, I mean, those the nice thing about Starlink is that it uses such little power that I mean, you can run it from an inverter in your car. A lot of folks now have these solar generators, which are just I don't know. I hate by the way the name a solar generator. It's just a
It's
freaking
misleading. Yeah.
it's a bunch of
It's a
freaking
solar
batteries.
it's a solar battery pack.
Yeah. But it does not even solar. I mean, you don't
Well,
have to power it with solar. It's just a bunch of power packs and an inverter.
yeah, but
Um,
option their chargers with a
Yeah,
solar.
you can
yeah.
get the collector.
Um, but with those things, you can run them. So you know the it's interesting that those kinds of things are available now, and I'm curious because there are some places that do have some connection out there. I'm wondering what what ISP they're using. Um, it can't be it can't be coax or fiber because that stuff is just non-existent.
And they've got to be
Um,
on backup power
It's
or
yeah, in some
something. Yeah.
areas, yeah. I mean, I'm looking at the outage map. I mean, you've got counties like Henderson County. There's 69,300 power customers that are tracked across whatever utility they have. 69,300 is the customers tracked. 69,195 are without power.
Wow.
I mean, it's for all intents and purposes and I'm sure the 105 that aren't tracked are just errors within the system. It's 100% of the county without power. It's absolute freaking insanity.
Well, I haven't watched news, so now that explains why Marshall may not be able to answer his phone.
Yeah, absolutely. He there's a high likelihood that he doesn't have service. And Duke Energy was saying in some areas their underground line, their some of their not some of their high tension lines, but some of their transmission lines. Obviously, they don't have those super high lines in the mountains. It's not practical. Um, they said that in some areas, those lines are going to be underwater for the next 3 or 4 days, and they can't even attempt to turn the power back on until the water recedes to the point where they can run electricity through those lines. Um, so it's going to be a long time for our friends out west.
Oh, I'm just
Oh
looking
boy.
at pictures of the Asheville Arts District, and I know where that is.
Gone.
Gone. It's underwater. Well, the buildings are still showing, but it's completely flooded. This is an area of town where they have old warehouse buildings and such that have been converted into galleries and
Mm. And Nick, you're talking about Starlink. So they said that Starlink, the satellite-based internet service, has hit a major milestone by surpassing 4 million subscribers worldwide.
Good.
SpaceX confirmed the news on Thursday after company president hinted earlier in the week that the service would reach the mark within days. Since its beta launch in October 2020, Starlink has rapidly scaled, growing from 1 million subscriber by December 22 to 2 million by September 2023, and now 4 million just months later. Yep.
Musk also says that Starlink is what's funding his other companies and especially SpaceX.
Huh.
He said the revenue from Starlink, it's because it's so successful and the actual, because he has the launch method he controls and he doesn't have to rely on somebody else to put the
Right.
satellites up and can constantly refresh them when they go bad. I mean, they have a shelf life or a used life apparently, and they keep getting better too. I love how the Starship is has a cargo bay that will launch these satellites. They actually, I'm not sure what they're number 33 or 32, something like that, of the Starlink or the Starship vehicles has the Starlink launching and cargo bay being installed in it because they want to try to do it on one of those a mission soon, either the next one or the one after.
It makes sense. That's what makes him such a good businessman. Oh
And
boy.
yet they
Yeah.
attack him.
Well, that's fine. That
Yeah.
happens all the time. All right, let's see what else. AI. Jack Ryan from San Diego was recently being interviewed for a job on a video call. The interviewer, a woman with red hair, said, I find it helps when candidates tell me a story in answering the questions. I'm looking for examples from your work experience, the woman added. During the conversation, Ryer had a smirk on his face. That's because the woman is not real. She is an AI avatar from a company called FairGo.ai, which uses AI agents to interview job candidates on behalf of other companies. So AI is now doing there's no human interaction kind of to say, wait a second, you said this first and then you said that. Or I
Well,
mean,
you know, or and this is obviously very dependent on the size of the company, but for an if sometimes you have an HR person that does the initial interview
yeah,
and they're simply making sure that like you can put a sentence together and like are capable of having a conversation and talking with another person, that might not be a bad idea to conduct remotely like that with AI. Obviously, I don't think you're going to hire somebody off of it, but then somebody, the next person that's going to be the next person that you're going to be talking to can watch that video and then determine, just have a general baseline of where the potential candidate is.
Well,
Um,
the tagline is going to be, "I'll have my AI check with your AI."
sure.
Yeah, so I'll have my AI interview with your AI, and we'll see if we get how far we get.
yeah, it's interesting the way it's going. Very interesting. Um, let's see what else. Today,
So,
well, last week, a group of independent security researchers revealed that they found a flaw in a web portal operated by the car maker Kia that let the researchers reassign control of the internet connected features of most modern Kia vehicles. Dozens of models representing millions of cars on the road, from a smartphone of the car, smart smartphone for the car's owner to the hacker's own phone or computer. By exploiting that vulnerability and building their own custom app to send commands to target cars, they were able to scan virtually any internet connected Kia vehicle's license plate and within seconds gain the ability to track that car's location, unlock the car, honk its horn, or start its ignition at will. Unfreaking believable. They said that Kia uh, put out a patch to fix this, but they still don't know where the vulnerability is.
Now, is this a patch
So
that they can roll out automatically, or does
Yeah,
the user
yeah.
have to do something?
No, I mean,
so it had something to do, like Amnon mentioned, with their web portal.
yeah,
So I would guess that based on the car's VIN number, they're able to get the MAC address or some way find the MAC address. I mean, that's what it comes down to, the MAC address of the car, which I guess the VIN is kind of like a MAC address anyway. Um, to do these things to the car. That's pretty bizarre.
it is. Now,
I
again,
have
remember, these are researchers
uh,
that have a lot of resources at their hand and everything to think. I mean, yeah, if a huge hacker uh, gang decided to do it, they may be able to do it too. But we haven't heard anything about any cars starting or honking or anything that happened because somebody interfered with the uh, smart car features. Uh,
what
So
what
this
was
is what
the
was happening. The flaw in Kia's web portal allowed lookup of cars based on the vehicle identification number, aka VIN.
mhm.
But there's a website called platetovin.com that
Ah,
allows you to view to get a VIN, and it would be through your state's DMV where that's registered. So, as you noted, Amnon, you find somebody's driver's
yeah,
license, you punch in this plate to VIN, and then the next thing you know, you can apparently access the car through the.
yeah.
It was AI, it was API tags on the website that were allowing this to happen. I guess there was no security on it. That's first of all, I didn't even know there was a Kia web port.
I
Like it
wonder
was,
if all
I
of them
didn't, I
have
didn't know
that.
that was a thing.
Uh, if you have a smart car, I mean, a smart car, really smart car, there's got to be something that allows you to do certain things. So
Yeah,
there's
it would be like
always,
a phone app or something like that. But I didn't know there was like a website where you could log in and look at your car.
huh?
I mean, I don't know. I just wasn't aware of it.
I went through a registration process for the Subaru when I bought it, and I have their they actually call their service StarLink, um, which uses the cellular network to talk to the car. And I purchased a subscription, like a 5-year subscription, to be able to have the first. There's several tiers that you can get of service, and I bought the. It's not the minimal one; it's the one up from the bottom where I can actually start the car remotely and check things and unlock it. But there was a registration process I had to go through with an email that took me to a web page. I want to see what that looks like
Yeah,
before I actually turn the app on.
yeah. I
There was
guess you have to. You have to be able to do that.
What was the deadline? I know
No,
the federal government set a deadline for cars having to have a kill switch, and going forward from some point in manufacturing going forward, there had to be a kill switch. So
kill
this, I
switch,
think,
as in the government will have a
yeah,
way
they could
to.
turn the car. They could turn the car off remotely. So for law enforcement. So, but that means also if you don't pay, you don't register your car. If you have too many tickets, they can turn the car off.
Ah,
So let's see
interesting.
here. Yeah, I'll look up and find out when that went into effect.
And Nick, again, talking about Starlink,
Sure.
hot on the heels of United Airlines Starlink
Hmm.
announcement, Hawaiian Airlines said it too is offering fast and free Starlink Wi-Fi across its entire Airbus fleet.
Yep, they are.
So,
They're all these satellite providers that have had airline customers by the
hmm,
balls for years
hmm,
on cell service or on mobile internet on planes. Yeah, their
expensive
business is done.
service,
What'd you say?
expensive service.
Expensive service is done. I mean, these companies will be out of business in 5 years. They can't compete.
Right.
That's which is good. I mean, it sucks that those companies are going out of business. Obviously, I'm never a
Eh,
fan of a company going out of business, but at the same time, this is a group that has not or an industry that has really not. Now, I'm sure they've done a lot of uh private innovation stuff that the public doesn't see, but the cost of that internet is still way too expensive. And I honestly haven't used it recently because it's so goddamn expensive. So um, I don't know if it's any better or worse than it was 5 or 10 years ago.
I don't know.
It's just too expensive. Like I can't justify $16 for um a 2.5 hour flight to get on the internet.
And
It's just not cost effective.
most people are like you.
Yeah, it just doesn't
So
make sense.
I would like to say that I doubt that these companies, the satellite companies, that's their bread and butter. That's
What do you
probably
mean?
was an added thing that for airplanes and for
No,
ships.
no. These companies were specific. I mean, the company GoGo, that's all they do.
Really? I don't know
Yeah.
how they can,
Well, you got to remember, they're also, um, they're also providing, I'm sure, stuff with the plane. I don't think it's just the Wi-Fi on board for that.
okay,
They're
yeah.
obviously providing some sort of other, um,
Services, catering, who knows,
well,
the other
not
stuff.
necessarily, not even that. Just other maybe other sort of telemetry stuff with the planes and things like that.
Yeah, because I hate to think that anybody in their right mind set up a company specifically just for this. When you think how many airplanes are in the air in
Well,
the world,
but there's a
and
lot.
yeah,
Yeah, no, this is what they do. GoGo is a business aviation. Their solutions consist of internet and in-flight entertainment.
okay, that you see, that's all the videos and stuff, the
Sure, but
movies that
all
you
of
see.
that. But if a company like United dumps
Oh yeah,
that
if
service,
they dump it,
that stuff is going to go away.
I don't think Starlink is planning to provide.
I'm sure they're
So
not. But the
yeah,
question is, will this company provide the in-flight entertainment if you're not using their
yeah,
data
that's
package?
true too.
Now, one and a couple of other things to remember too. First of all, the airline industry is huge. Not only is this for commercial planes, but you got to imagine
Yeah.
private aircraft and things like that that have internet. So I mean, it's a very lucrative business. I'm sure.
Well,
One
we'll
that
have to
Trying to do
wasn't
wait
some
and
one
see.
that
research.
wasn't possible just even a few years ago, and at least not at high data rates.
Now,
Yeah,
Nick.
GoGo. So the
Oh,
company, which is called GoGo Inc., was sold to Intelsat in December of 20 for over $400 million.
phew.
According to GoGo, they have over 2,500 commercial aircrafts and 6,600 business aircrafts that are equipped with their Wi-Fi internet-based service. It's a company that has a revenue Amnon of over $335 million a year.
Oh, oh, am
So
I? Uh,
it's a it's a very lucrative business, but it's going away.
I can remember using their branded service on an airline. I don't remember which one it was,
Mhm.
but I haven't seen that name. I've been flying on Alaska Air, American, Delta, and United. And well, United's been a while, but Delta, American, and Alaska, and it's nowhere as GoGo or mentioned anywhere.
Hmm.
So
well, it may be behind the scene.
it could be.
Yeah, I would assume that's the case.
And also the aircraft now are having onboard servers to serve up movies. They actually have this onboard, which is makes sense. The cost of doing that is so low now. You just license it.
So they have a
So
streaming server.
streaming server on board. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, so Delta uses them. I'm trying to read
Used to be
Delta. So Delta, American, Virgin, Alaskan, um, and a whole bunch of other international airlines that I'm not. British Airways, Air Canada.
So Starlink is gonna be sued soon for monopoly.
Oh, they're yeah. I mean, they're the Alina Khan and her incompetence is already talking about
Mm.
it. So
All right, Nick, you're a
yo,
gamer.
yes, proudly.
Did you ever purchase a game online that you really that disappeared on you and you couldn't get it back?
So I have not purchased games that have disappeared, but what I have done is purchased games that are no longer in operation. They require a server to connect. Obviously, it would be like a multiplayer game. And those servers shut down. So while I still have access access to the
Mhm.
game, there's nothing for me to do because the servers are offline. That happens very frequently, unfortunately.
Well, this article goes that California Governor Gavin Newsom has signed a law, AB 2426, to combat disappearing purchases of digital games, movies, music, and ebooks. The legislation will force digital storefront to tell customers they're just getting a license to use the digital media rather than suggesting they actually own it. When the law comes into effect next year, it will ban digital storefronts from using terms like buy or purchase unless they inform customers that they are not getting unrestricted access to whatever they're buying. Storefronts will have to tell customers they're getting a license that can be revoked, as well as provide a list of all restrictions that come along with it. Companies that break the rule could be fined for false advertising. So I guess a company is going to have to weigh and say, well, we're either going to keep that server up, which is going to cost us so much to maintain and update and all that, or pay whatever the fine is going to be from the state. Um, it's a dilemma. I don't. I mean, you like you said, you own it, you have access to it, but there's nothing you can do with it.
Yeah, okay, but at the
Yeah,
same time, so what's the government going to do? Force a company to
I
continue an operation?
yeah, that's what
I mean, there was a deli here that shut down a couple of years ago that I loved
yeah.
called the Wilmington Sandwich Shop. They went out of business. I'm pissed about it. So what's the solution? The government
The
forces them to
solution,
continue
no, the
operation?
solution would be that somebody else would come in and build a deli.
Yeah, but they
Open,
haven't.
yeah.
So
Well,
I mean, that's like, yeah. Does it suck when that happens? That I spent $25 on a game and now I can't play it anymore? Yeah, but I don't know what the alternative is. I sure as hell don't want the government in the industry of telling a private company that they have to continue operating.
it's interesting, to say the least. I'm reading the chat. I mean, I guess
I was
Alan
just trying to
Alan.
answer Alan's question about what would be a good way to. He's got a couple of 100-foot Ethernet runs. He wants to try to move over to wireless. And the issue with that is at high speed, 5 gigahertz, the distance is probably not going to work real well, especially in a complicated environment. If you had a wide open space, maybe. But the rule of thumb for this is to, like, for camera companies, video wireless camera companies don't support 5 because it's too far. They need it to be reliable, so they put it on 2.4. And so the way I do it in my house is all my cameras and sensors and all that run on 2.4 for distance. And then I have two routers in the house, two access points that I use for devices to connect because they're right in the same room. But Wi-Fi 6 is better at it. It overcomes interference and channel
Mhm.
issues. And then Wi-Fi 7, the standards are being, I think there might even be prototypes out there. I don't know if they're just selling it yet, but will even help even more. But you still can't overcome higher the frequency, the shorter the distance. You just can't overcome it.
Yeah, and I was just thinking, the way that Marshall gets internet in the mountains, I mean, he's on top of a mountain, is, RF. It's actually no, it's not. It's,
What do you mean it's RF?
dish. I'm sorry. It's not an antenna like, an antenna like Wi-Fi, but high power. It's not. It's a dish. It's a dish that's being it's on a mountain a top that he can hardly see.
It's microwave.
It's so
No, it's
far.
no, it's
No,
not
no, it's not.
microwave. It's likely somewhere in the 2.4 or 5 gigahertz network. It's probably some sort of ubiquity or microtick radio.
I mean, I believe it's only 12 megabit,
Yeah, that's yeah,
but
you can I mean, here's the thing with 2.4 and 5 gigahertz in like a ubiquity dish radio, which by the way, for folks that have never seen the inside of those, right? It's got that dome on the outside.
mhm,
That's not the antenna. The antenna's still on the inside. That dome is just to protect it
correct.
from the elements. You absolutely can. That's how most wireless ISPs operate. But and all of that is 2.4 or 5 gigahertz for the most part. It's because it's all line of sight.
Yeah, it's got to, for 5 to work, it's got to be line of sight.
And same thing with
Yeah.
2.4. Any of that stuff has got to be line of sight. So
Yeah.
you get two
Yeah.
points up that are really high, you can travel dozens of miles. Um, a lot of radio stations and TV stations, obviously, that's how they get their feeds to their transmitter towers is via the same principles.
I still have that A system in my attic, Nick, that'll go 32 miles.
Yeah, it can absolutely be done as long
Two
as you've got a
panel
high enough
antennas.
point.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Two panel
high enough.
antennas.
If as you can get them high enough and you can get them lined up in the appropriate way, you can let that stuff fly.
To answer
Ubiquities.
Alan's
Sorry, go ahead.
question about 2.4 or 5 be better, just the newer standards would be better just by having the newer standards. Whether you have 2.4 or 5, it doesn't. 5 will work better because it supports MIMO and other technology, multiple in, multiple out, uh, frequency, frequency shifting, and all that. Whereas 2.4, they're kind of leaving that behind when it comes to those fancy features. So moving up to a newer router, the Wi-Fi 6, this Wi-Fi 6 Plus, I think they call it, or and there's two versions of it: the good version and the better version. And the better version is expensive, but you with the 5 gigahertz endpoints, they really can't be very far away because it doesn't go through walls well.
Right.
So, but it depends on your environment. But for 100 feet away, I don't know that you'll be able to use 5.
I mean,
But
I cannot use 5 from one side of the house to the
to the
other
other, yeah,
Yeah,
it
but
just doesn't.
but again, this is if this is a straight shot, you can absolutely use 5 gigahertz.
if it's line of sight, yeah.
Yeah, and
Sure.
open.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What I would recommend is you've got the
Is this
100 megabit connection. You got a cable there. Put a router on the end of the cable.
I wouldn't put
All right.
another router because then now
Well,
you're
an
gonna
Well,
have
access point. Well, when I say router, if
access
you
point. Yeah.
depending on which one you buy, like for example, the um gosh, what's the one I use Amnon all the time that I use? Oh, gosh, I can't remember the name. My mind just went blank. But they have a It's not proprietary, but if you set it up and you set the same SSID on all of the routers, it does what they call graceful handoff. So you can move from one access point to the other, and based on the relative signal strength, it will automatically switch you without you even noticing it.
I
Whereas
mean,
with
the real solution here is what you're describing, Spence, but they call them mesh systems now, and a
well,
TP
Yeah.
Link makes them, and everybody
it
makes them.
is TP
That's
TP Link
TP Link
has
Arrow, I think
on
is what
their
it's called.
basic router has this feature. You turn it
Yeah,
on, and you can have three of them around the house that are wired. That will now the mesh thing adds the wireless backhaul that this doesn't have.
yeah, it's called the Deco. Excuse me, the TP Link
Yeah,
Deco.
yeah.
I'm gonna post a link in here for one. This is the TP Link Deco AX3000. It's a three AP um, Wi-Fi 6 mesh access point system that does support Ethernet backhaul, and claims it will cover in the ballpark of 6,500 square feet. This is the reason this is the I say the best solution is because of the handoff that Spence is talking about, so that you don't have to worry about setting up the access points with the same SSID, and that stuff works, but it also is also dependent on the type of device that you have connected. Some devices handle handoff better than others. These mesh systems are kind of designed to do that stuff.
And
Um,
to get the features of Wi-Fi 6, you have to have an adapter that supports Wi-Fi 6.
sure.
So you can't like if you have an old N card, it is not going to be able to participate and will actually bog down your network because
Hmm.
you're causing it then to basically go to its lowest common denominator, which is N. So
Correct.
to run all those services at once, N, G,
I'll tell you what, though. I don't. Most routers do not even support those standards anymore. New routers do not support those
no,
standards.
they,
You
well,
cannot
they have
connect them.
some of them have an option to do that. I have Wi-Fi, uh, what is it, AX,
Hmm.
and it does support going back to N as
Really,
far back as you
still
can. Yeah, you can turn it on.
interesting, because
Yeah,
I
but
I
you
was reading that they've turned a lot of that off because of what you just described. Is that it can essentially bottleneck the entire net. People don't know, obviously, but it can bottleneck the entire network if you've got some super old smart appliance that has a really old radio in it still.
and that's the
I
issue.
would
It's
say
a
that it'll be dumb to have a device that turned them off because better bogged down than not working at all.
well, one
Yeah, but
solution.
well, maybe yes and no though. But you got to remember, for the general consumer, Amnon, you go out and spend $350 on a Wi-Fi mesh
Okay.
system, and it doesn't work, and it sucks because you've got a bunch of end devices that are
Well,
trying to connect.
here's what I did to fix that. I set up 2.4 and 5 as X. 2.4 really just not. But what I did was I set up a guest network
Yep.
for cameras. So that they anything that's older has a I can set it up to be G, I can set it up to be N. So it's on its own management plane, separate from the other ones. So you just all if you look, turn your phone on and look at the available Wi-Fi from where you're sitting now, you'll see 10 or 15 networks if you live in a neighborhood, because they're all competing for bandwidth.
Mhm.
So what's good about six is that the way they negotiate bandwidth and they can overcome noise in the network, and they have algorithms and frequency shifting that can keep your signal going better. But again, that kind of stuff, that kind of bandwidth, the width of the bandwidth is going to require a closer connection.
Wired.
I was going to say it's all going to go back to being wired again.
Ah,
Like
that
it's the
that always
pendulum goes
works.
one way or the other.
Yep.
When we design big Wi-Fi networks in buildings, we always told them wire when you can.
Yeah.
Use wireless where you can't. And don't just say wireless is going to be everywhere and it's going to work with everything. If you have printers in a printing room, cables, don't go with wireless because you'll drive yourself insane.
So Spence, you still have that TV that display ads.
Yes.
Well, LG has started displaying ads on TV screensavers,
Oh,
intensifying the proliferation of ads in smart TV software. The South Korean company quietly announced the move to advertisers on September 5th, foregoing a public statement to customers. So you didn't pay for that TV, but here it is, a TV that you pay for and you pay good money for will still display ads when it idles, as in screensaver. Instead of just having something moving around the screen, you're going to have ads. Um, I mean, it's not such a bad thing, but it could be. I mean, I don't want. I wouldn't want to have ads on something that I paid for, a device that I paid for.
What do you
Right?
mean?
yeah.
Roku does this anyway. I mean, the Roku screensaver is a bunch of ads. If you leave your Roku on, it goes to that city. You know what I'm talking about?
If I leave the Roku, it goes into that aquarium.
Okay, so you have a screensaver set up. I have the default Roku City theme, which is the
Okay.
default one, and it goes to this, and it's a two-dimensional city landscape that slides across the screen,
Right.
and it's full of ads.
Okay. No, that's
And even on the Roku at the in the on the home screen, there's ads on the right hand side. When
I
you have the on the left, you've got you've got like home, app store, whatever. Then you've got the column in the middle of the three app column, and then on the right, it's a whole banner ad. I don't care. Here's the thing:
interesting.
if
Yeah.
if LG can keep the price of their TVs the same and offset it with putting ads on a screensaver, and the screensaver is only coming on when I'm not using the television or when the TV is sitting idle, I don't care. It's okay. You want to
Yeah.
hear something crazy? So last night I was watching Alabama and Georgia, the college football game. Um, and I'm watching it on YouTube TV. YouTube TV offers 4K through a special channel. So I watched the game in 4K. On 4K, there are no commercials because that stuff's not available in 4K. So during the commercial break, they just go to a silent panorama shot of the stadium. I turned off
Interesting.
the 4K stream and went back to the regular 1080p stream because it had commercials because I don't want to sit in silence for 4 to 6 minutes during a commercial break. I'd rather just have ads on in the background.
Yeah.
It was just silent. Like there was just nothing, no
Yeah.
music, no crowd noise. It was just silence and this picture, this camera, fisheye camera, way up in the corner of the stadium showing what was going on. It was just really weird.
That
I'd
is
rather just
interesting.
have a commercial on.
It's interesting how they can't just, why can't you send a lower quality picture over 4K?
It has something to do that when a TV is in 4K mode with HDR and stuff, if you're switching
Uh,
things back and
yeah.
forth, I think that kind of screws with the 4K nature of HDR and stuff like that.
Mm.
Because if they could
Yeah.
put ads on it without an issue, they would.
They
I can
would.
promise you that.
Yeah.
But they don't. So um it's just but it was eerie not it was eerie at just being silent and there being no commercials.
Yeah.
Alan
That.
had a go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. No. Because you think what did my connection break? It
Yeah, not
what
even that. I mean,
is
I
it
could
still
see that it was
working?
moving, but it was just like I'd rather just if I'm sitting there watching television. So it's a mindless activity anyway. So now I'm sitting there and there's nothing to there's
What
like
do you
I'm just sitting there.
what are you implying? What do you mean it's a mindless?
It's a completely mindless activity sitting there watching a football game, which is exactly what I'll be
But
doing
we're
all
all
day.
good at multiplexing now. You sit there, the TV's playing a show in the background. You're doing solitaire on your tablet and checking your email all at the same time.
Yeah. But you do that with background noise. There was no background noise. It was
Yeah.
really weird. I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all.
Alan had a great
Uh,
question about cable. And he says he's got, can I upgrade out on that 100-foot cable drop. The question is, if you want to use gigabit to get there, you're going to have a Cat 6 cable or one at least a 5E
Cat 5e will do
minimum.
it.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
5E
Yeah.
will do it. But and your theoretical distance for that is 100 meters, which is 330 feet. So 100 feet should work.
So
But
here's
you
the
gotta,
thing.
yeah.
If you're doing this in a house, Alan, um, it might make sense. And again, it depends on the space and how you're doing it. It might make sense to do a 50-foot run, put an inline extender in, um, and then another 50-foot run. Yes, you can run Cat 6 up to 100 meters, no issue. But if you're doing it in a situation where you can easily, for the most part, put something, cut that line in half, and then put some sort of, I don't know what they're called, repeaters or something like that. They're just
Access
inline.
points.
Extenders.
No, 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 they're not an access point and not an extender. It's just it's an Ethernet extender. It's literally like a little tube that you plug two Ethernets into and then plug it into an outlet. And it
Oh,
just
yeah, a
essentially
power line extender. Is that what you're
no, no,
saying?
not power line, but for Ethernet. Damn it, I'm trying to
You
remember what
mean
they're
to
called.
branch off of it? So you
No,
will
to
have another outlet right there where you are, Ethan? What are you
no, um, hold on. They are called. Hmm, completely drawing a
mm.
blank. I know Ubiquity makes them.
Is it an amplifier?
Yes, yes, and essentially an amplifier. Or honestly, what you do
No,
is
the switch. Put a
you get
Yeah,
switch
a
there.
put a
cheap,
little
yeah, you
switch.
get
That's
a
what I was
$12 TP Link switch.
yeah.
Do your run 50 feet, and if it's in a place where you can connect it to a switch and then connect the other end to do it. When you get up to that theoretical limit of Ethernet, things can start getting weird. It depends on the interference in the house, the quality of the cable, things of that nature. So yeah, if you can get a cheap 4-port TP Link switch and do your runs in 50 and 50 or 75 and 25, whatever, that would I might recommend that
Well, I would
if it's
I would
possible.
say check out the cable if you have a way to do that. Look at what it is. If it's Cat 5E or better, then you can certainly run gigabit. You can run out to it. Most wireless routers or access points will support gigabit connections, physical connections, and then you can stick that access point out there and get much better service. Just
Anywhere you look at it, yeah.
isolating the 5 from the 2.4 will help a lot.
For folk like what we're talking about, if you had, let's say you had to do it 200 feet or 200 meters rather, that's the limit. Something like that, which is just a cheap little 5-port gigabit switch, essentially. Now you can that essentially allows you to double your distance because everything kind of gets reset when you get to that switch.
Right.
The way we used to design wiring systems in buildings was you had closets everywhere
Mhm.
and you would limit individual runs to desktops or desks to 100 meters. And that way you knew you were basically future proofing. Well, at the time you thought
Yeah.
so. If you were running Cat 3, no. But Cat 5E or better, you were future proofing at least for the next couple of technology jumps. But the difference between running 100 meg Ethernet and 1 gigabit Ethernet is 100 uses 2 pair and gigabit uses 4 pair. So if you have a cable that in some cases you split the use of the cable, it's not to code, but you could run phone lines and Ethernet together in the same cable. It's not
Yep.
advised because of crosstalk, but you could do it. And we did do it. When you had cost constraints, you would do that. But if you want to run, I remember getting a gigabit switch, my first one, and I'm trying to connect them together. I'm like, why it's not working? It's not working. I look at the jumper cable. It only
Mhm.
has four wires in it.
Mhm.
It's like because the old routers would ship a cheap cable for you, and it wouldn't have all 4 pair in it. And I that was a long time ago.
Yep.
I mean, when Gig first came out,
Yep.
they'll
That
never get. There will never be Ethernet that will run faster than 100 megabit. That's what they told us.
Would never need more than 64K of
That's
memory.
right, of memory.
Yep. All right, so
We
if you have Disney, Disney is
Disney
official.
Plus.
Well, Disney Plus or Disney. It's just
What
Disney.
you say when you have Disney?
Sorry. Yeah. No. Disney has officially launched its password and account sharing crackdown,
Woohoo!
rolling out what it is calling its paid sharing program
Okay.
to users in the US and in many regions around the world last week. The rollout follows the company's sharing plan to crack down on unauthorized usage on its streaming service earlier this year. The paid sharing program, look what they call it, paid sharing program, has a couple of options for users. People sharing an account with someone outside their household can add that person as an extra member for $6.99 per month for Disney Plus
Wow.
Basic, Disney Plus Basic, or $9.99 for Disney Plus Premium. Both discounts to the normal retail price. Only one extra member will be allowed per account, and it is not available as part of the Disney bundle. In addition, users sharing an account can also subscribe to Disney Plus themselves and can transfer an eligible profile to the new account to keep their watch history and settings. I don't know how much Disney Plus or Disney Premium cost these days, but it's $6.99 or $9.99 to add only one extra user.
we
So,
have
So
we have sharing in that my son has through Apple, where we can share family share subscriptions.
yeah.
And I know Apple Plus is part of it, obviously, but the some of the other things are also shared through, like if I wanted to enable it Max on my another television, I would just log in with my iPhone and I would enable it that way, and it would come back through. Somehow, it's the licensing is handled through Apple as a family sharing.
It's nice that they do that.
I disagree completely
Why?
because I think this whole sharing thing is a ripoff.
It's expensive.
Well, I mean, there are businesses.
Yeah, but okay. So here's the thing, though. With sharing, you still have a so this comes down to how many active streams you can have going at a time,
Hmm.
right? I mean, that's what the metric should be. So if I want to give somebody else my account and I am not watching at the
Okay,
same
yeah,
time as they
yeah.
are, and they're not watching at the same time that I am, why does Disney care or any of these services care?
It's potential loss. Yeah,
It's not potential loss.
it is because they can get two people to pay dues.
Sh-
So that's
Okay,
where the
okay.
ripoff you're talking about. Yeah,
Exactly. Now,
yeah.
if like and that, for the longest time, all of these services have a number of streams that you can do simultaneously, so that you not one person buys it and gives it to 600 people, and it's normally 2 to 4 streams. So if I'm not hitting that number, why do they care?
Good point. That uh, Netflix did it, and they think that they can do it now too.
Sure.
All right, we're talking about Gavin Newsom. I mean, that guy has been in the news this week. So now he
Gavin Gruesome.
gruesome. He has signed into law a bill that requires schools to limit or ban the use of smartphones amid a growing consensus that excess usage can increase the risk of mental illness and impair learning. 13 other states this year have banned or restricted cell phones in schools or recommended local educators do so. after Florida led the way by banning phones in class in 2023, according to Education Week. California, with nearly 5.9 million public school students, has followed the lead of its own Los Angeles County, whose school board banned smartphone for its 429,000 students last June. Um, you ban it. I mean, the kids, what they'll bring it and they have to give it to the principal when they come in, or they leave it in cars, or what? I mean, what do they? The policing of this thing is absolutely. It's a mess. I
No,
would
it's not.
say.
We
Of
talked about this a couple weeks
I
ago.
know.
They give every student gets that bag and they
Yeah,
put it in
yeah,
the bag when they get to school and
right.
then it puts
But
the lock on.
but again, it's a mess. It slows things down. Here's what I was
Sure.
thinking. You get caught using it's banned. You got the phone. You get caught using the phone. You either have to stay after school, or it'll affect your grade by some points, or you will have a black instead of having a gold star. Like, you are just getting a black mark.
Can't say that anymore.
They'll have to pass
Uh,
notes back and forth now in the classroom.
wow.
Well,
Hey, Mike, what is Mike
he's
doing there?
there. He's there
I don't
twice.
know. He's here twice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a phone thing. You know how this Apple crap is.
Yep.
Let me see if I can
And
delete one of them.
and yet we continue to use it.
That's
Well,
called that's
un-
called sharing.
Yeah, Mike,
unfortunately,
stop
it's
sharing. Mike, I'm gonna have to send you a bill. It's gonna be $17 a month. Since
okay.
you're sharing, okay?
All right, send it along. I'll send it to Amnon. Do I need to log out of one of the two?
Yeah,
No,
it's
No,
we're
fine
okay
now.
it
now. You're
dropped it.
better. Yeah.
No, what happened was that I joined it and the privacy settings were not allowed the microphone. And when I changed it, it sort of dropped and I had to reconnect. Anyway, am I late?
Yeah, you're late,
L-
but so what?
We can keep
Yep.
going.
Y'all started without me?
no, we can't keep going. Amnon gave us a 1 hour timer, and we are currently at that it stopped running. Damn it, we're at
Yeah.
like 56 minutes of that.
That's
It's all
fine.
right.
That's fine. I just thought
Nah, it's fine.
I actually had some technical comments based on some things you guys were talking about earlier. I bought one of these TP-Link AX3000 routers and configured it as an access point, but it keeps dropping the internet, and with a computer sitting 6 feet away from it, I'll stream something, including computers to okay now, and it'll just drop it.
You're talking about the mesh system that we were talking about
No,
earlier.
not the mesh. It's just the regular. It's just a regular router. It's a Wi-Fi 6 router, and it's set as you turn off the DHCP and set a static IP
Mhm.
on the router, and it'll act so go into the LAN port instead of the network port, and it will actually act as a wireless access point. That's all a wireless access point is. They've just added some slick stuff. In fact, I may have to take some of that back because I believe it has a wireless access point mode on it.
It
Uh,
does. And I think
yeah,
if you use that, you don't have to move the port from the internet port.
possibly,
If I
possibly.
remember that. I think the
Yeah.
one I have, you can plug it into any port then. It just makes it a
So here's the
5-port
real
switch.
question, Mike: Is the issue the access point slash router, or is it the possible the Ethernet cable is bad?
Yeah, I mean, that's a fair question. The Ethernet cable was. I think I'm going to double check that, but as I've used it on other things like a hardwire connection to a computer, and I
Ye
don't have that problem. But that doesn't mean that there might not be a connector mating problem, for example, going into there. So I'll double check that because
Yeah,
I've got
Mike,
about three
I
weeks to return it.
I had problems here, remember, I don't know if you remember, with 2 of the laptops, and they would work weird and in n n at times, and these were ready-made cables. I mean, factory made, and when I started looking, I made a cable and it worked great. So when I cut that wire, that cable that I was using, it had only 2 pairs.
Ah, so it was
Yeah.
an old cable.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you can't tell. I mean, it was in a bag and everything, but it wasn't a good cable.
Yeah,
Sure.
but Amnon, you're holding on to stuff from 2001.
Yeah, well.
No, 97,
I'm
96.
sorry.
So
I
yeah,
only
I
thought they
mean,
had in '96 they only had one wire,
that's the first thing I would do.
Single pair.
I
Amnon,
would
single wire
how much quad are you still running in the house?
how much what?
Quad.
video cable.
It's the old 4-pair telephone cable line. So
Oh,
Oh,
there is a bunch of that, but that's for telephone.
red, green, black yellow.
individual shielded cables,
Yeah.
or not shielded, but individual,
But
Twisted.
no, Mike, make yourself. I mean, it's 1, 2, 3. Just make another cable and
I
see.
think the one I'm using is one I made, but that would lend to it being a problem more than having
Re re
the factory one better.
Recrimp it.
Yeah. Oh, I'll try just try a different cable. I thought at first it was not doing that and there was something else going on, but then I was just listening on my phone. I was playing with my phone and I was listening with that a while ago to you guys, and boom, all of a sudden it just dropped.
Oh,
And
one other thing to note.
Hmm.
The Ethernet that's getting to this room, where is it coming from?
the well, you know my house, and
Yeah.
the router is downstairs in the master bedroom. There is a Cat 6 cable going to up through the attic and down into a closet into the blue bedroom, which is across from your bedroom. And then it has a wire running from it, and there's a switch in the closet, the top of the closet, and then there are four Ethernet cables coming out of that, which includes one going back to my office, one going to the guest bedroom, the green room, and then one going to the your bedroom where Cole is and working out of it with no problems. And there's one that goes into the storage bedroom, which nobody uses. So, I mean, I think the internet part of the wired part of it is good.
So what I'm asking is, are you running these down to the like the keystone jacks in the wall?
Yeah, yes, there are keystone jacks in the wall that go to the switch up in the top of top of the
So
closet.
verify the I had an issue when I was working at the managed service provider a couple of years ago. We had a one computer on this network that was just constantly dropping and was just we did everything.
Right,
And so I went over there one time and, once again verifying the cables and everything like that. The keystone jack that was in the wall, which essentially is just a pass through,
sure,
had two of the metal prongs in the keystone jack had bent, and they were bridged together, and it was reeking, and it wasn't consistent like Amnon was describing. It
right.
was it was this inconsistent flutter of network traffic. And then once I saw that those pins on the inside of the keystone jack were all screwed up, which means somebody probably was fiddling with the jack and did whatever. We replaced the keystone jack, and it never had a problem again. Check that too.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, all that's good. It's a good idea. I just naturally assume since everything else had worked on it, you naturally assume it's the router. But I think what I may do is move that router downstairs to a different access point completely where we use it more often and see if for sure if it's a problem with the unit because they're
sure.
rated very highly. It's the TP Link, very similar to the one you're talking about, Spence. But and I've had good luck with TP Link. I think they're the only switches that I buy, so I've been pretty happy with that.
I noticed a big difference in the stability of my network when I upgraded all my switches to TP-Link Gig. And
Oh, for sure, with
yeah,
gig part.
so it made a big difference here.
Well, I've got a big mess with my mesh idea here because I don't have a mesh system. I've got one, two, three, four access points, and I've got a mess here. I'm going to get mad one day and order one, but it's all supposed to work with the next one and just redo the whole thing. I think I've been fighting AT&T. They just sent me a third new gateway because it kept dropping the internet. And so I installed that and got it going, which was relatively painless if they had given you complete instructions letting you know that it was actually going to reboot after it was working and install your old settings, including your old passwords and all that, but they didn't. So, but I say I've got Google Fiber and AT&T, so I'm waiting for AT&T to go down long enough to justify spending the time to fully hook up the Google Fiber, and then I'm going to pull the plug on AT&T.
Oh,
I've had some AT&T outages, but they usually last 2 or 3 minutes.
I could live with
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
So
Well,
another question. What? Go ahead, Nick.
I was just gonna say there's a lot of work going on the main road by here, and I've had 3 AT&T outages in the last couple of months. No fault of AT&T, as these idiot contractors that are dumping other fiber. I had a 16-hour, a 14-hour, and a 23-hour outage due to cuts in fiber. And I mean, not AT&T's fault. I can't.
yeah.
But I did. But
Well,
there's something interesting. So when this is pretty funny. I also have AT&T cell phone service. So you would think, oh, and what I'm told every time when I call AT&T and bitch and complain, the fiber ring that I'm on around here for my home internet must be the same fiber ring that feeds the local AT&T cell tower. If I turn off my Wi-Fi right now, I have phenomenal speeds with AT&T 5G. When my home internet goes out, due to a fiber cut, not an equipment issue at my house, but a fiber cut, I also do not have cell service. I cannot even make a phone
mm,
call. So
Oh,
I am completely boned when there's a fiber cut because neither of my services work. It's very
well,
interesting.
I outsmarted them because once Google Fiber became available, I had it installed as well. So now I've got Google Fiber and AT&T. And the first time I had an AT&T outage, it was from a fiber cut, and guess what? They cut both of them.
well, that's only fair.
So,
Yeah, I mean
but
it's a free market economy, so one gets
yeah,
cut, the other gets cut.
yeah, we're equal opportunity fiber cutters, but no,
Yeah.
they and Google got it fixed faster. In fact, they got here before AT&T left. AT&T had cut it, and AT&T guys, oh no, we didn't do it. We didn't. Oh no, you did do it. And they walked up. Oh yeah, I guess we did. But anyway, I wanted to ask another quick question. If you guys already talked about it, don't worry about it. But I wonder how Elon Musk's satellite systems are doing up in the mountains.
The
I,
right,
I
Nick.
didn't I don't know how they're doing, but I mentioned at the top of the show when you have a catastrophic infrastructure failure like that, it does really shine on the importance of something like Starlink or even something like Exceed or HughesNet or something like that that can work when literally the entire rest of the infrastructure is gone.
Well,
I follow RV forums where they talk about Starlink and how in the beginning RVers couldn't get it because they needed to have a fixed address.
Mhm.
So they actually would use somebody's fixed address to get registered. And they said it's gotten better and better. This is a year or more ago. He said it's getting better and better now to where these are people who are nomad land people. They don't have a home. And they said the service across the entire country has been great.
All right,
is
so here you go, Mike. I'm reading a tweet.
is it low orbit?
Yes.
Okay,
So it's constant handoff.
okay,
Yep.
Two
That's what
minutes
makes it
ago,
so fast.
right.
two
Go
minutes
ahead, Nick.
ago, some storm spotter put out on Twitter um, update. As cell and internet services still down, another Starlink node is available for public use at the Civic Center shelter on Pinehurst Drive in Asheville. Anybody can come and use it.
Wow.
So, and it's the Starlink router and dish are sitting on top of a massive Miller pull behind your car generator that is
Wow.
set up in this civic center. So to answer your question, it seems to be working incredibly well. And I don't know if I doubt Starlink is deploying these. I bet you these are citizens that have
Ham.
Starlink that are
Probably
setting it up for free.
hams. How are the
Yeah,
hams doing?
so the Ham Radio Group has been instrumental in connecting people. There's a repeater on top of Mount Mitchell, which is the highest peak east of the Mississippi. It's some 6,000 feet. I was up there a couple weeks ago, and there's a 2 meter repeater up there that somebody trekked up to the top of the mountain and got a generator on, and they've been using that to talk to parts of Georgia and Tennessee, so obviously and North Carolina, to try and locate people that have no ability to communicate.
Case
Nice.
in point, friend of ours has their good friend's stepmother, elderly stepmother, is in Marion, North Carolina, and they haven't been able to reach her since the storm. So they're not sure what they should do, and they have blocked off I-40 after I-77.
It's you know it's amazing when you look at Starlink's one thing, but when you look at like ham radio, which is incredibly old technology, yet in a situation like this there's ham radio operators that are not, that are relaying reports from Facebook pages where they're saying like, hey, does anybody know this person on this street? And then there are local hams, if it's safe to do so, traveling to these areas and doing essentially a welfare check on these people,
Wellness
and then
check. Yeah.
wellness check, and then hauling it back to the repeater, and then somebody in the repeater elsewhere in the country is relaying that information to somebody over Facebook. It's pretty remarkable.
So how can I reach these people to ask them to check on this lady?
Let me see if I can find let me see if I can find a link to one of the Facebook groups
Well, you can
where
let me
it's
know
going on.
afterward. I don't want to keep
Yeah,
you guys going, but you can get up with me a little later today if you want to.
absolutely.
Uh,
I'll send you some of the details.
Super. All right, guys. Well, I'm glad you waited for me. Don't ever let me hold you up.
Amnon, we're over time. I started my timer when you said an
Yeah, I
hour.
see that.
Hour and 10 minutes. Come on,
That's
let's
fine.
go.
That's fine.
That's right.
How much per minute do you have to pay now in fines?
It's like it's as expensive as Wi-Fi in planes. It's like $16 a minute or something like that.
My
Cool.
good friends in 1964, the tribute played at played at Carnegie Hall, and they were so popular. They were doing a meet and greet. They had the line so long that they went over by 15 minutes, and they had never done it before. And the overcharge from the union was $3,000.
Dang.
They didn't do that again.
All right. Then we'll better break and finish the show before somebody's telling us we have to charge it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna get off
All
here,
right.
guys. Talk to y'all
All
later.
right.
See you,
Yeah.
Mike. Nice
All
talking to
right,
you.
Okay.
guys.
Likewise. Bye.
So, anybody else wants to add?
Be safe. Keep the western half of the state in your prayers. They need
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. I'm just thinking about what we as individuals might be able to do. I'm going to try to
They're
come up with.
check and see. I know in Cabarrus County today they were dropping supplies off at the airport, and they're helicoptering supplies into certain areas. So see if something like that's going on over in your. I'm sure it is. There's been a call from the emergency management for any private aviation helicopters to be willing to fly things back
Mm-hmm.
and forth.
Nice.
Get your ham radio license. I'm dead serious. It's an easy test to take. You buy a cheap little Baofeng radio. They're like $50. You might never have to use it. No, use it enough so that you know what to do. And but this is an example of when and it's funny. I'm in all these Facebook groups I'm in for ham radio. There's all these new members in here now asking how do I do this and what do I need to do and all this other stuff. And unfortunately, now you're not going to do anything because you have to go and take the license. You have to get the radios. It's by the time you do all that, it's not going to matter. But
There's
get
going to
your
be there's going to be a lot of radios and pagers made. I
well,
mean,
I hope so. People
sold
get
sold for cheap that coming out of the Middle East. So
Just was gonna, I
Jeez,
thought that's where you were going with this.
I don't know if we want that necessarily. But
Oh,
hey, now that the summer's over, things are kind of slowing down. Put on your bucket list for the end of this year, for the first couple months of next year, to get your amateur radio license.
Yeah.
It's like especially with if you live in an area where things can be destroyed like that.
I need to pull out
gotta
my
get 'em.
ICOM aviation radio that I have handheld, and I don't know that the frequencies are legal with your amateur radio license or not. But
No, I'm sure they're
no,
different.
I wonder if but they're it's so cheap now. But that was great because the radio license went with the plane. You didn't have to get a
That
license. The
that
actual
makes
plane
sense.
had their own license. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I can crank the radio on the military Jeep, but the problem with that is it kills, I don't know how many frequencies to the left and how many frequencies to the right. I mean, you're not supposed to use it.
Yeah.
It's not something that is modern, but it's strong. Yeah. All right. So thanks, Nick, and thanks, Spence. Um, by the way, Gal is on the way to his sons in Virginia. They're moving him. He got a job in Fayetteville, so they're helping him move. That's why Gal is not here. And Katie said she woke up this morning with sore throat and a headache.
Mm.
Um, but she tested for COVID and she said negative.
Eleanor
So
has a quick question for you, Nick, about what ham radio would you recommend a basic radio?
I'd absolutely so there's two different things. I, when first radio is going to be something that's called a bow fang. I'm gonna get a
BAU, or is it
B BAO.
BAO?
I'm gonna recommend a Baofeng radio to start. They're cheap, literally $16 cheap. And they're handhelds. This is good if you're in an area where there's stuff nearby. If and this is you want one of these anyway. If you're in an area where you need to put up an antenna outside and things like that, there's a variety of 2 meter radios that you can get. You get your ham license, which I think is 40 or $50, and then you get this $16 radio, and that's a really good starting point. And especially if you're just using it for emergency communications, that should be enough. But you do have to be licensed to use it, so keep that
Yeah.
in mind. But buy a Baofeng, no question about it.
Bow and a fang.
Yep. Cheap Chinese radios, they work incredibly
Yeah.
well. I've got 3 of them.
And they automatically translate your English to Chinese when they send it to the Chinese government.
Yeah, precisely.
All right.
$16. That's incredible.
Well,
Yeah, it is pretty incredible. I think this one does 5 watts.
that's a lot.
Yeah, they sell ones that do up to 8 or 10 watts. I've got a 10-watt version, but 5 watts with line of sight is more than enough for what you might need.
What kind of a connection to an antenna does it have?
Well,
An
it's a
external
built-in antenna.
antenna, I'm talking about.
Oh, well, have Spence talk for a second.
It doesn't look like a BNC connector. It looks like a screw down
It's screwed on, but is it like
coax.
the big?
Coax. Yeah.
Is it kind of big like the old CB?
No, well, I can't. It's hard to say. I'm looking at the picture here.
This is what the
It's
connector looks like. It's a mini
Oh, it's a mini.
BNC connector, but however, you can easily buy, and I have one, an adapter that goes from this to PL259,
Yeah,
which
that's
is
what
your
I'm talking.
traditional,
Yeah.
so this
which
is
is your
it's
traditional
a
ham radio
BNC.
cable.
It's
It's a
BNC.
micro,
It's not
it's a
threaded.
it's a
Oh,
micro. No, it's not. It's a micro something or other.
yeah.
I don't remember the name of it, but yeah, and then the antenna just screws on like
Yeah.
this.
You just take
Okay.
that off and you take a coat hanger and you straighten out the tip. You
Yeah.
shove it
So
in there. It'll
this
work
is
great.
this is kind of what they look like. Oh, SMA. Mike texted me. It's called an SMA connector. So SMA to PL259, and then you can connect it to a full antenna.
Yep.
Outside.
Or
So
yeah, to a full antenna, and can also use an amplifier.
no, no, you cannot. And if you take the test, you'll learn that you can't use that,
Yeah.
depending on what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
So yeah, highly recommend it. I've recommended it for years, and fortunately, it's a situation where you don't need it until you need it, and then you're SOL. Eleanor,
Yeah.
no, do not buy an antenna. It comes with this little
Oh,
antenna.
yeah.
Just start with this, and then once you get it all set up, you'll figure out what you want to need, what you need, and if not, send me an email. I'll put my email in here.
And Eleanor, be sure not to use the radio while you're trying to light your gas stove. You remember
And I
that?
also
Amnon?
don't do this. The other day I was using mine and I had my hands like this across the contacts. And when I keyed up the radio, my hands
Ooh.
started burning because I was bridging. I was bridging the connections. I'm like, damn,
But
what happened to my pinky? So
Yeah, but that's why you take courses and a class
mhm.
and you learn about all these things.
Yep, you'll be required to learn it
Yeah.
to take the test.
But do you
Absolutely.
remember when Eleanor called in about the problem with losing, I think it was a Bluetooth connection or something like that. But when she'd light her stove, the sparker would create just enough interference that it would knock out whatever she was using. I can't remember what it was, but it was something crazy like that.
Yeah,
This was years ago. Yeah.
going back to the military radio on the vehicle, there are actually warnings around the antenna that to move away because if you're close, well, if you touch it, you can get electrocuted, so to speak.
RF
Ooh.
burn.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's bad.
Mhm.
So
It's
yeah,
power and it's heat.
yep.
Absolutely.
Okay. So again, thanks, Nick. Good
Toodaloo.
information. Thanks, Spence.
You're welcome.
And good morning, Kathy, Hannah, Nabil, Mac, Norm, Katie and Donna, Mati, Eleanor, Sarid, Yaakov and Yael. Thanks, everybody, for tuning to Computers 2K Now. We hope you enjoyed and maybe learned something from our time together. Remember to practice safe computing, back up your hard drive, and update your virus scanner, and change any same passwords where you use them. We'll be back here next Sunday, 9, but you can always reach us at computers2know.com. And Nick, I need the call letters
Okay. I'll get you
where
everything.
you are. No, now where you do the show.
Oh, just tell folks
Not
to
the
check
call
it out
letters.
on
I'm sorry. The
just
frequency.
just just check it out on YouTube. Just search for the Carolina Journal News Hour on YouTube. That's the best place.
Carolina Journal Hour. What did you say?
News Hour.
News Hour.
Yep. Check it out on YouTube.
Okay. Yeah. So Nick does Monday through Friday, 5 to 6 a.m. And what's the name of the station? It's a WBT.
WBT. Yep.
WBT.
On WBT. Check it on, like you said, on YouTube. It's Carolina News Hour, which is just a talk show and political points, political talk. And Nick and Brian do the Infection podcast on Twitch every week. This is for gaming, survival gaming, with a little bit of political stuff and news of such. Just go to infectionpodcast.com and check out when the live show is going to be, or download the podcast from last week and go with that. Have a great week. Take care of yourselves, and we'll be back here, like I said, next week. Bye-bye.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. If you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section at nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by StreamingGear.com and DeltaForce.net.